Hi, everyone, and welcome to Tepa Podcast, the space where we have real conversations about life, careers, growth, opportunities, and the perspectives that shape who we become. I'm your host, Pamela. I'm not alone as always. Today, our guest is Khumo Phala. Hi, Khumo.
Hi Pamela, how are you?
I'm good. How are
I'm
you?
good. I'm
I'm
good.
good. Kumo, please tell us about yourself. Tell us about your educational journey. Where are you now? Was it hard? Was it easy to get where you are? Yeah, tell us about yourself.
Okay. So I was raised and I grew up in Maubani, Kodi
Oh,
E.
Block E,
Yeah.
next to station.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And then I went to MH Valois Secondary School, going Tafeld.
Okay,
And then from there, I pursued my higher education, go UCT,
okay,
where I got my undergrad in economics and finance. Then I did my postgrad in finance.
okay.
And then now kato hato.
Watoto
Yeah,
hene.
kato hato.
Mm. Yeah, and then hopefully like so I want you to tell us more about your tutoring gig.
Okay.
Yeah, because I think that's very interesting.
So I've always had a passion for teaching.
Mm-hmm.
So the next natural step, since I didn't pursue teaching as a career,
Mm-hmm.
was to start a tutoring company, which is something that I did this year. So my whole life from high school, even at uni, I was always helping my friends because I just love explaining
So it's a
concepts to
passion of
people.
yours.
Yes, so it's something that I find easy to do, which I like to do. Hence, I decided to start my own thing and to tutor bana ba e leng hore ba tlhoka thuso.
Okay, so tell us more about that. Where do people find your tutoring company?
I recently launched a website.
Okay.
So if you say Next Step Academic Solutions,
Mm-hmm.
so the first one it will pop up and India yana mang which tell you. Also not tell you
Okay.
Then from there you'll find all the details that you need. And then otherwise if you check my social media platforms, you can reach out there. And then yeah, most likely you'll find the details that should lead directly to me.
Okay.
Yes.
So on our podcast, we mostly focus on job opportunities and unemployment. How are you finding the job market?
Um so I found something beginning of this year
Okay.
and I had started seriously looking for a job because I wasn't initially planning to get into the job market immediately after uni. I wanted to do my master's,
Okay.
but when that didn't pan out, I then had to start looking for a job.
Mm-hmm.
So it was very tiring having to, I don't know how many applications I
I
submitted.
was interviewing someone who said looking for a job is work. It's
Yes,
actually a job in itself. So
yes,
do you find that to be true?
that is true because I was submitting every application, every job
Mm-hmm.
possibility that I would find that related to my field of studies, I'd
Mm-hmm.
apply to it. So on LinkedIn, I'd get new job suggestions. I was
So
applying
how many times did you apply?
probably over
Roughly.
100 because I was applying every day and checking different companies' websites. So yeah, over 100, and then I had more than 10 interviews. So yeah, nearly an actual job.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, but you actually finally found something.
Yes, I got something which is a step in the right direction as far as my career aspirations.
Okay. So, what can you tell those graduates who saying, I'm applying, but there are no replies? I'm applying, I'm getting tired. It seems like there's no hope for us who are looking for jobs.
I would say it's very helpful not to give up early on because there's a lot of people who are looking for jobs.
Mm-hmm.
But I would also add to that by saying it's important to tailor your applications so that you don't feel like you're overexerting yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So instead of applying for everything that's out there, choose things that sort of align with what you want to do. Then spend as much time as possible in making sure that the application that you'll submit is as strong as possible. So,
Okay.
for instance, I think a mistake that I made, which
Mm-hmm.
also resulted in me feeling tired, was to apply for every random thing because there was also that sense of desperation that was creeping in. So, I think what would have been better would have been for me to choose specific opportunities that I wanted so that I can take time to make sure that my CV is in line with what they're looking for any supporting documentation that they want, any motivation that they want, can directly be tailored for that specific company. So I think that that would help a lot instead of apply and
Instead of
hope for the
randomly
best.
applying, find your niche.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So, of all the interviews that you went to, you said you went to over 10 interviews, right?
Mhm.
So, of all the interviews that you've been to, because you said you've been to over 10 interviews, right?
Mhm.
What did you think you did wrong in those interviews for you not to be appointed in those positions?
Um, so there are some which I underprepared for.
Okay.
There are some which I was just not interested in what the job entailed.
Okay.
So there are some companies where it was the work that they wanted me to do. It was call centerish, and yeah, I felt like I wouldn't necessarily be best utilized
So you
in that
wouldn't
space.
fit in the role.
Yeah, so there wasn't
You had no motivation.
yeah.
Okay.
So that was also something that I saw later on. Then for the ones that I underprepared for,
Mm-hmm.
I think it would have been very important if I had reached out to people who had either people who are currently working in the company or people who had done similar interviews,
Okay.
because that would have informed me as far as how much should I prepare for and what exactly should I be preparing for.
Okay.
Because I did my preparations, but when I got there were some questions where I had to think on the spot, and that has its own disadvantages because you end up not necessarily answering the question.
Yeah, because
And
you don't know what to say.
yes.
Yeah.
So I think those are the two things that I picked up from the few interviews that I did.
Okay. So when it comes to your CV, right? What tips can you give to our viewers when it comes to CV preparation for the jobs that they want? Let me say maybe I found my niche and now I want to prepare a CV that is specifically tailored for that niche, right? So what should I do?
Okay. That's not necessarily my strongest suit, but I have some knowledge in as far as that's concerned. So I'm aware that most companies use AIs as a preliminary step to filtering the CVs.
Okay.
So there's something called an AST or SOT score, something like that,
Mm-hmm.
that will inform the AI
employer.
that's being used or the
Okay.
employer whether you are a suitable candidate.
Okay.
So that goes in line with what I was saying earlier on about tailoring your CV and your any supporting documents for the specific company that you're applying for.
So the AI looks at maybe keywords in your CV.
Yes. I'm not necessarily sure how it works, but I just know that you can't submit the same CV to every company.
Mm-hmm.
You need to sort of tailor it for the companies that you're applying
For
for.
the specific job that you're applying for. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. What do you think companies can improve on, especially when it comes to communication with job seekers and people who are looking for better opportunities in the job market?
Um, that's a tough one because companies would think that putting jobs on their website is enough, and I guess to some degree, in their defense,
Mm-hmm.
people should be checking their websites to see if the jobs are there. So I think what would help is if there was a centralized platform where whenever a company has an opportunity, it tells this platform that, okay, we have an opportunity for ABC. And then people, when they're looking for jobs, instead of going to different companies, you just go to this platform. And then from there, you know that this is a certified and trusted platform whereby all these companies tell the specific platform that these are the jobs that we have. So if something like that could be established, I think that would help ease the burden of looking for a job. Because if you have to go to different websites from all these different companies, that can take a bit of time. And there are some companies that I was also not aware of. I only became aware of them when I started looking for a job. There are so many companies out there. So I think there's companies out there that have opportunities, but people just don't know that there's a company called XYZ.
So basically, we need a centralized system where everyone can go and look for the opportunities that they're looking for. Where different companies come and then get post their positions there.
Yes, I think if something like that could be created, that would help close the gap between the employer and the potential employee. Because if there's a platform like this, everybody would know that if you go to Tsepo's podcast,
Okay.
you know that every company has told Tsepo that these are the jobs that we have.
And they're verified.
Yes.
Because there are a lot of scammers out there.
Yes. So I think something like that would help a lot. And yeah, that's it in as far as what I think could be a possible solution to the challenge that is faced by potential employees or people looking for jobs.
Okay, what would you say to a recent matriculant who's at home right now? They didn't get space in varsity or they don't have money for varsity. They're sitting at home now. They feel like the future is bleak. What would you say to that individual?
Um, if this was a conversation between me and them, my first question would be, is your intention to further your studies? And if the answer to that is yes, then I would further on ask a few more questions, but I would premise my conversation with them by making them aware that their value as a person is not attached to whether they go to varsity or whether they got accepted or not, because I think that's a challenge that most people come across once they're done with school and things don't necessarily go the way that they plan for things to go. So I think it's important for them to know that I'm not a loser, I'm not a failure because I didn't get into varsity. I am still a human being worth and worthy to be loved despite this one event in my life. And from that, I would also make them aware of the fact that they have just simply started a different phase of life. And this life thing is very long. And I think most of the time, as young people, once you finish matric, you think that Kotoma Buphilo and all these things are going to start coming together. Whereas there's still so many things that you need to do. So it's not an indication you're going to be a failure in life if you take a gap year or a few gap years or whatever you need to tlagansa. So I think that would be the type of conversation that I have with somebody who just finished matric. Then if it's somebody saying to me, no, I don't want to further my studies, then I'd have a different type of conversation. I'd be asking them, what is it that you're good at? What is it that you find easy to do? And then from there, my conversation with them would be around how can we use this thing that you're good at to help you generate money in order to push this thing called life. So if this person is saying, "Na kenya go ya school, okay, I see and then they're saying, "But I'm good at draw." And then I would say from there, okay, there's a few people out there who use this gift of being able to draw, and they use that to generate an income for themselves. Yeah. So from there, then the steps would be how can you also position yourself to use this gift that you have to generate an income, and whether at the end of the day, whether when we if you're able to provide for you and your people and push up it really doesn't matter, or at least as far as I'm concerned.
Okay, so most people say that these days in the job market, right, you need connections to get in. Is that true?
I think the answer to that would be yes and no. I think firstly, you need to have the qualifications necessary to occupy certain positions.
Okay.
Even if I know pekenal numbers are high, if I don't have the qualification for a certain job that is open, he can't just put me there.
But some people would argue, right, that oh, Zuma didn't even have grade 7, but he became president.
Hey, Joanna, that's a completely different conversation, because then once we start having that type of conversation, apparently
Yeah, they didn't go to school.
So if that's the sort of conversation, I wouldn't necessarily know what to say that, because I think those are outliers in the data of people that you'd be assessing. It's possible for you to be successful to get into a position somewhere somehow without having matric or qualifications, but that's not how things work for most people.
Okay, so I think, ma'am, looking at the landscape of what's happening, that would mean there are people in this world who, it doesn't matter what they do, they just bring value, right? They have so much value that money gravitates towards them, that their talents bring in income for themselves. they just have that thing, like, I think it's aura or something, that they can actually generate money whether they have education or not.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, and there's this other thing, yeah, now young people are steering towards not going to school, but actually doing social media. So what do you say to those people who think, "Hi man, there's no need for me to go to school. I can just get into social media and then get a few likes, and then and then now I'll get campaigns and promotional work, and then I'll make money that way."
So earlier on, I had said it's not important whether you go to school or not.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a slightly more in-depth answer to that.
Mm-hmm.
Probably the most important takeaway from education is the training of the mind.
Mm-hmm.
So when I reflect on how I used to think and see life before I went to varsity, before I did all those courses that I did,
Mm-hmm.
my way of thinking is completely different to how I used to think before.
Okay, how did you think before?
I I would say my depth of thinking was very shallow, because
Okay.
it's unfortunate that I can only say this in hindsight.
Mm-hmm.
But what else if you spoke to me before I pursued my academic journey?
Mm-hmm.
I would have said no. I think ke nagana pila, like tlhaloganya ka ya bereka.
Yeah, because you
I
don't know what
know.
you don't know.
Yes, I know hore di bereka bjang mo lefatsheng. That's what I would have said to you. But reflecting on my mental and intellectual growth, I'm able to say no. But I can see or no, even though it doesn't automatically mean hore I'm gonna be successful, but my way of thinking has improved because now I have exposure to content about how the world works.
Mm-hmm.
I'm able to analyze information with a certain degree and a certain degree and depth.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't look at things on the surface level. I investigate, I check, or why is this way? How does this work?
Mm-hmm.
What is the process that's driving this? So all these things, it's simply because of education. So now if one is choosing not to pursue this journey that trains your mind in order for you to be able to think like this, there's an inherent risk there. You're choosing to, I would say, sort of gamble.
Okay.
Because no, in my opinion, pursuing social media and content creation as a career or a way to do life is something that you can do because a lot of people are doing that.
They are doing it.
Yes, but I believe it's a risky play. It's a risky journey to pursue because you just might not make it, and then
And then what then?
yes.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So, in conclusion, Khumo, what pearls of wisdom can you leave our viewers with, especially those who are looking for employment right now, who feel like there is no hope for them?
I'd say to those who are looking for employment,
Mm-hmm.
they must just continue applying, tailor their CVs, go to networking events, create a LinkedIn profile, just put yourself out there. And there's some jobs that are created by just virtue of you showing an employer that you have interest, not because the job was available,
Mm-hmm.
but if you go to a networking event and you get there, you network, and then in conversation you mention that I'm currently looking for employment, this is what I did, then there are instances whereby the employer would be impressed by the person and the type of human being that you are. Mm-hmm. Then multi plan. So I'd say that's the approach that I would say people should ascribe to.
Okay.
And then for those who are not looking for jobs, who are just looking to apply themselves in lives, I'd say, as I've been saying before, find that one thing that you're good at, see how you can monetize that, and then push will pay.
Please like, share, subscribe, and hit that notification button. Thank you for joining us today on Tapa Podcast, giving hope a voice. From me, Pam, and Khumo. Adios.